Hello, everyone, and welcome. So this training, we're doing part one of the main components you need to skyrocket your sales and mastering the art of speaking directly to your customer, their needs, their desires, their wants. In order to do that, you have to know who they are. So in this training, we're going to talk about really nailing down your ideal client, your ideal target market. And this is just one component of creating your unique value proposition, which is critical in sales to make sure that you can make sales and include it into your marketing. So we're going to do that for those of you who are here with me live. We will, I created like a worksheet in real time. So hopefully we can make this effective for you if you're watching this in the recording. Don't worry. Hey there, Diane. You'll have some information that you can do this on your own time, but I'm going to put some stuff on the screen. Don't get worried about reading it. It's really for my benefit, but just listen to it. And we're going to make those components kind of hopefully come together for you. So what we're going to do first, we are going to go over why you need it. Hey there, KH, good afternoon. And then we're going to talk about some companies that do it well so you can see how they did that. And then we are going to do real time. So you too, Diane, because I know you got some projects you're working on, right? So we're going to do it in real time so that I'll ask you the questions and you can answer them on the worksheet. So I am actually going to paste the worksheet into the chat. And for anyone else who is joining later, I'll pat that. Also, the link is in the description. So this is going to be how I'm able to read it, because last week when we did the comments, some of the comments it cut it off. YouTube cuts it off. So I couldn't read everything you were saying. So hopefully this will help out. Okay, so let's go into why it's important for you to have or identify your target market. Again, when you are working with your customers, you want them to be able to raise their hand and say, I need to work with this person, or I need to buy this product. And in order to do that, you have to really look at various elements of the potential customer you want to serve and know what their desires and their needs are so that you can make sure that your marketing message says that, right? So let's talk about that really quickly. So this is why it's essential. You want to tailor your marketing strategy specifically toward the people who are most likely to purchase. And this is where, I just let that go. Let me bring it back. This is actually where a lot of companies mess up. To do marketing on a general level, it is expensive, whether you're paying for ads or whether you are creating content. You want to create content and put ads in front of customers that will actually buy your product. So if you don't think about who those people could potentially be, then you're going to end up wasting a lot of money and a lot of time. Hey there, James. Okay, so tailoring your marketing strategy specifically toward the people most likely to purchase your product and services. That's why creating this target market and understanding who they are is going to be critical, okay? Number two, you want to ensure your resources, time, money, effort are invested in strategies that will give you a good ROI. So again, if you are communicating in a way that your target audience can identify that they need to work with you, you are wasting your time, you are wasting money, you are wasting effort. So if you define who these individuals are, you can save that. You can put a more strategies into your marketing, and then it will go further, and then you can convert. So I know some people who have websites and things like that, they're thinking, oh, I need to do my website over, or oh, I need to do all of these marketing things. But when people come to your website, are they converting? So you have a messaging problem. Anyone can get traffic. You can pay for traffic. But if people come to your website or they come to what you own or what your company owns and they're going there and they're not closing, that is a messaging problem. That means you didn't do a great job communicating to your potential clients that they need to work with you. So before you start, for those of you who already have a business, it's not too late to kind of implement these strategies. But if you were just starting, taking your time and doing this is going to be very helpful. Hey there, Venus. Welcome. Okay. So now after that, you want to make sure that this is essential because this helps you differentiate yourself between your competitors. There's going to be a variety of times where you may have people that are doing the same thing that you do. But if they didn't define their market well, think about the desires and needs, potential issues, they're not going to be able to communicate effectively with the client the way that you do. So if you know the problems and the desires of your market, you can see what your competitor is doing and do it better. Like you've seen various aspects where, especially in the tech space, there are tons of companies that do the same thing. but usually one comes after the other, and they fix the things that the company prior didn't do well. Okay, so this is basically, if you already can identify who your target market is, you could do that as well, right? So here's the last thing, and then we're going to jump in. Hey guys, so for those of you who are just joining, I'm going to put a worksheet in the chat so that when it's time for us to do our Q&A, we can communicate, okay? All right, last one. When customers feel understood and catered to, they are more likely to have brand loyalty. Okay, so that is critical, especially for your small business owners. Having your first 1,000 fans is super important, so you want to make sure you cater them. How do you cater to people? Well, when you know what they like, you know their problems, you know their desires. So this is why it's essential. This is, again, the first step of creating your unique value proposition. We're just talking about your target market today. We're going to go into other stuff next week's going, okay? All right, so let's go to some companies that have done this well. I want you to think about it and then think about how you can apply this in your business, okay? So right now, we're going to start with Tesla. Everybody knows Tesla, right? So when you think about Tesla, I want you to picture in your head, what's their customer persona? Some of y'all can put in the chat, because you know what you're looking for when you see a Tesla driver. And Tesla specifically came up with their target market because they want to focus on a particular audience. So let's talk about what that audience is really quickly. So Tesla wants to focus on those environmentally conscious consumers seeking sustainable but high performance. And they want to have some luxury and some performance. So if they want luxury, performance, and they can pay for it, so that you see how all of these components are part of their customer persona. So even though, before Tesla, when you thought about an environmentally conscious consumer as it relates to cars, you were getting some little car that probably didn't go that fast, and no one wanted to deal with electric cars, right? And then Tesla came out, and because of their brand, the target market, and their customer persona, they created something new in the industry. Hey there, Lucille. Okay, so that's Tesla, and that just gives you one example. So I want you to start thinking about what your customer persona would look like based on your product or service, okay? So now we're talking about Apple. You know Apple. So for those of you, if you're old enough, if on my 40 and older crew, you remember that Apple way back in the day was not the Apple that it is right now. Now, they've rebirthed themselves, right? So initially, I would say, 25 years ago, Apple computers were particularly just for people who did graphic design, right? They were these small, skinny computers. They had a weird little mouse, and no one really touched it. It was more so PCs and things that people use to do papers and professional things, right? Apple has taken a whole different approach and really toned in into a different customer market. The ideal target market Apple has now is not what they had 20 years ago. And the reason why that's important is because whatever your ideal target market is now, it does not have to stay that way. As your company evolves, so will your target market, okay? But you want to put out who they are now, all right? So that's Apple. Let's talk about their target market really quickly. So these are tech-savvy consumers valuing innovation and quality and design. And people can, argue if that's really Apple, because I know, Droid, Apple, there's always a fight there, but they have destroyed relationships. People have stopped dating because people had Droid phones, okay? All right, so Apple focuses on creating a premium, innovative user experience, often being at the forefront of technology advancement and things like that. So that is so when you think about Apple and what they present, it is that tech savvy, like for me, the ecosystem. I can never leave the ecosystem because I need my phone and my computers and everything else to communicate with each other. If that ever stops, I don't know what I would do with myself, right? So that is Apple, right? So Apple did a great job and they evolve. So next we have Dove. So Dove is really interesting. I want you to think about, again, Dove 20 years ago. When Dove's marketing was out, it was basically saying 1/4 quarter moisturizing, right? That was the soap. 1/4 quarter moisturizing. It was all about finding the soap. Because back in the day, you ain't have like 50,000 billion forms of soap that you have right now, right? Like we had Irish Spring, Zest, Dove, Dial. Like it was like a good 7 soaps that existed in the mainstream market, right? Now there are tons of options. So Dove, of course, paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for a new marketing campaign, they had to switch the ideal customer that they wanted, right? So initially, again, it was just a person who didn't want abrasive chemicals and perfumes on their body, on their soap. Now, Dove has moved, if you look at their marketing lately, it is more, I just got rid of Dove. Let me give you, it has moved more to showing women in various ages, sizes, shapes, and they represent all races, creeds, religion, everything. They were very intentional about that, right? So that's been their latest real beauty campaign. So I want you to think about that. Again, as you've seen with Apple, it migrated. As you see with Dove, it migrated. Now, granted, marketing agencies charge a ton to kind of rebrand and repurpose it. But in that, you had to sit down in these conference rooms and say, like, okay, so who do we want to appeal to? Who do we want our customer to meet? How do we attach that? How do we make everyone feel included? And that was how Dove kind of rebirthed their image in a area where there's so much competition. Again, this is why your ideal market and knowing who that is so critical, because that wasn't Dove's issue before. And now you fast forward 20 years later to still stay relevant. They had to change things, and they changed their target market, okay? So next is Lululemon. So Lululemon is not as old as your Doves and your Apples and that type of thing. But what Lululemon did is they strategically were focusing on the woman who had a lot of discretionary income and wanted to feel comfortable in athletic gear and didn't mind paying for it. So they had a persona of what that woman was, what she looked like, what she may or may not have done as a career. And so this is what large brands do. And they do this because when they make a mistake at their high caliber, it's very expensive. Now, when you're doing this as an individual, as a small business, it can be expensive to you if you don't do it correctly, so which is why we're doing this, okay? So let's go to, actually, if we can go to the work page. Why can't I say that, right? The workbook, I'm going to put it in the chat again. And if it has any typos, forgive me. I just gave you some examples, and we're going to go through that. And so let's head over to the screen share really quickly. Okay. So this is just a worksheet. And for those of you who are here and want to participate, feel free to put the information into the worksheet and we'll go through it so that when you ask me questions, I can actually see where you are and what you need help with. If you're viewing this in the recording, the link will stay up as long as you need it, but you can ask me questions. Try to send me an email or put a question in the comments and I'll try my best to answer. Okay, so here we are. We are on, and so when you look at this, I want you to see at the bottom right here, we have ID market. That's the video we're doing today. That's the training we're doing today. Next week, we're doing your unique position. I haven't built that yet, so don't look at that. And then the problem you solve, and we'll go on because this is just training one for your unique value proposition, right? So we're just focusing on this tab right now, and this page will be up, so feel free to fill it in whenever. You don't have to, but this is what I'm hoping. I just threw some in as it relates to Driven Spice, not for real, but just to give you some examples, okay? But when you do this, for the first one, what problem do you solve? If you're watching this in the recording, or if you don't want to use the worksheet, fine. Please write it down though. Like write it down so that you will have this when it's time to do your marketing and when it's time for you to speak in the language of your customer. This stuff is going to be critical. Okay. So the first thing, the problem you solve, when you think about this, I want you to think about how does your product or service alleviate specific issues or pain points for your customer. So for here, again, it's an example. I put professionals interested in transitioning into location-independent lifestyles, but not sure how to position themselves online for location-independent careers. That's just out there, right? Okay, it's an example. You think about how does your product or your service alleviate specific issues or pain points for your customer. Put what you need. Okay, now, unique benefit. When we're talking about your unique benefits, your features and your benefits, I want you to think about which aspect of your offering stand out in comparison to your competitors or your benefits. I read that wrong. After 20 years in my field, this is what I put. I've converted into providing professional services globally. So you can have a professional that's been doing their career for forever, but they've only been able to be recognized in their city or town and haven't quite really realized how they can do things globally or internationally. So because I know how to do that, that's my unique benefit. That's what I put there, right? Now, I see y'all not working on the worksheet, and that's fine. But if you want to get the questions answered, show me where you're having your issues so that you can walk away with something that you can work with. Right now, who has this problem? This is an important question to ask, because if you have a hard time figuring out who has this problem, you may have to ask yourself, is this important enough for me to try to create a business with it? You follow what I'm saying? Because there's going to be a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of energy you're going to have to put in this. And if you can't figure out who has the problem, it's going to create some issues for you. So when you're talking about your problem, you can identify a group or a segment of people who commonly face this issue. So for here, again, for example purposes, I have highly trained, overworked professionals. Typically, when people are really smart, they get paid a lot of money, but they are overworked and they have basically no time. So when that happens, you feel underappreciated in your job in most cases, and you usually want to leave, right? So that is the problem that the clientele that I'm looking at in this case has. But I want you to write that specifically for yourself, right? Okay, next we have, who is most likely to purchase? This is a question that you have to consider factors like purchasing power. Do they have the ability? You may have a great business idea, but based on the clients that you want, do they have the ability to pay you? Do they have the ability to come back and be continuous customers? Because it's easier to, if you've made one customer happy, it's easier to keep a customer happy than to invest the money to continue to get new customers, okay? So you really have to consider, do they have the purchasing power? Is it accessible? Are they willing to depart from their money to invest in your service? So in this example, usually I'm dealing with skilled professionals. So do they have the money? They typically do. They have more money than they have time, and they're usually underappreciated. So again, skilled professionals that are tired, burnt out, overworked, and lack time. That's very specific, right? I mean, it's pretty specific. Okay. All right. So next we have your difference in your competitors, right? Now here you want to think about understanding your competitors, your target audience, and reveal the gaps or opportunities in the market. And so for here I have, many of the competitors don't provide technical automation software solution and blueprints to allow professionals to run their business solo, saving them time and money. So in this case, the reason why that's important, because there's probably a variety of people who, consult and help show people how to make international income. The issue is most highly skilled professionals do not have time to do it. And getting someone, an assistant, could be helpful, but if they can have software that automate that process, they love that part. And they don't have to do the tech part and someone just implement it, they love that part. So that is how I could say that I would be different from others. So I want you to, again, think about this as it relates to your business. Now, here's an important one. Can the market size sustain your business? And this is what I really want you to think about. Like, some people may have a good idea for, let's say, cupcakes or cookies or this or that. You really need to do the numbers to say, okay, how many cupcakes or how many whatever, or how many cookies or how many makeup jobs or whatever it is, how many of those clients would I have to close in order to make this sustainable? Now, in my case, Driven Spice is just a side thing. So my digital marketing company is what I focus on. But I want you to really sit down and have a conversation to decide if what you're doing is going to be sustainable. How many clients are you going to need to be able to pay the overall cost of your business? If you have a brick and mortar business, how many does it take to pay the rent, utilities, taxes, hard product costs? What does that cost? How many do you need? So let's say you're selling a Beanie Baby. I don't know why that came to my head. So with Beanie Babies, let's say they can only be $10. Based on the expenses it will cost for you to run your business, do enough people want to buy Beanie Babies for it to make your business plausible and functional and make it so that you're not stressed all the time? So think about this now, particularly for my startups. This is going to save you a lot of time and money. And I wish somebody would tell me that when I started. This will save you a lot of time and money. Okay, if you're already in business, you probably already know this, but you may not have evaluated it in a while. So can your market sustain your market size sustain your business. Okay. All right. Okay. So consider whether there are, and I got my notes over here, guys. Consider whether there are enough potential customers to generate your sales volume you need. Absolutely. Now you got to do the numbers to know that. Okay. And a lot of times if you, let's say you're a caterer, I have friends that cater, they don't think about the time they're in the grocery store. The time that you're, coming up with these recipes, the times you're in the grocery store, the time to travel to those places. That's your time and it's expensive. And a lot of times they're not putting that into the cost of catering because in some cases, there is some push and shove in regards to how much somebody really wants to pay for that service, unless it's like a bridal issue or wedding or something like that. But so you have to be very diligent to know your numbers to make sure that you are doing this effectively. Let me make sure. Are we good on? Okay, good. Now, if you have questions, I'm about to wrap this up. So if you have questions, put them in the chat. And if you want to fill out the worksheet, you can, and we can go through it. But if it feels stressful because everybody watching you, don't do it. Okay, now what is the price sensitivity of your potential market? I am putting anything there because I just filled this out a second ago, but I want you to think about that, right? Is your market price sensitive? If they are, how is that going to affect your numbers? And does that make sense for you, right? Now, is your market growing or shrinking? This is where you got to be very honest with yourself. And there's probably a lot of statistics and analytics you can find online that will help you better answer this. But is your market growing or shrinking? Now here, I put here that it's either growing or shrinking. So you put, now I put shrinking, but let me tell you why I put shrinking. I put shrinking because of the trends that's next to it, right? Economic and job layoffs may cause highly skilled professionals to stay in positions they hate for job security. Okay, so that means with everything that's going on in the economy and job layoffs, someone who may have decided, oh, I want to move to another country and work or whatever, they may think, let me hold off for a little bit because I don't really know what this economy gonna do. So I put that it was shrinking. So whatever yours is, I want you to really be real with yourself and decide, is that something that is going to affect you? Okay, if it is, put it in there. All right. So, and are they prepared? Yeah. So that, I hope, is this helpful at all? Tell me in the chat. Will this help you? Sentiment AI. Hey there, Lucille. Yes. So give me some comments, give me some feedback. Let me know where we are with things. And then let me come here to Q&A. All right. How we feeling? Questions? Bueller. Hey, Diane. Katrina, hey there, hon. Boa tarde. All right. So if you guys don't have any questions, we're out of here. Okay. All right. So let me just tell you about next week really quickly. Next week we are doing, what are we doing? How to stand out your unique position, right? So this week was your ideal market. Next week we are talking about how do you understand your unique position? You are going to have to be able to say this to your client so someone knows why they should choose you versus your competitor. And so we're going to talk about some ways to do this. Now, even if you don't fill this out publicly, please write down the questions and the information and think about this so that when you are ready to create your marketing message or you're ready to sell your service or product, that you have thought about these things and you're able to say it later. Now, in your overall message, right, you're going to include your ideal target market. That's who you're talking to. And in that, you're going to have to prove yourself to them. And that's your unique value proposition. And part of that is going to be why you are unique. Then we'll move to your competitors, your competitor advantage, your features and your benefits. Does that make sense? So this is just one component. And I want you to get this. I want you to have this down. And if you have any questions, sure thing. Hey, Diane. Good, Diane. I know you're doing some things. So I'm glad it's helpful. Thank you, James. Look at this and think about it. Write it down. Do what you need to do. And again, for those of you who are joining late, that link is in the description of this video. And it's also in the chat. Write the answers down. And if you want to create like a sheet so that when we move through the various areas of your unique value proposition, that you can knock all this stuff out. And when you're talking and you're doing your elevator pitch, this is stuff you want to be familiar with. You want to be able to say relatively quickly. At the very end, we're going to talk about how to make it very clean, simple, quick. But right now we're pulling all the pieces out, and then we'll refine it later. Okay. But just pull all this out and give it to me. Okay. All right. So you guys are good. Venus, you're good. Root of the Source podcast. What keeps you driven? You're in it. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. I don't know. Maybe leaving America gave me some energy that I love. Okay. All right. We got one question. Write a question on the stream. We're doing consultations on digital marketing. I have a digital marketing company. Yes, right. This is not that. This is just, I'm doing this because I want people to be able to know how to do this for their own business. So this isn't related to my digital marketing company, Ray. I hope that answers the question. Venus. Okay. Boom. Y'all got it. Next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. If we don't have any more questions, we are out of here. We did good time today. All right. So if something doesn't make sense and you have questions, put them in the comments. I will try to answer them. If I don't answer them, I'll push it to next week. Okay. So next Tuesday, same time, I will see you. All right. Until then, ciao, ciao.